Recording in.
Yeah, I do.
Doing good.
Somehow something got screwed up with the recording the other night. I don't know what happened. First time it happened, but I hit record, and then when I went back in Zoom later, there was like some kind of technical cross out something. I don't know. Must have been on Zoom's end because I remember hitting record. So hopefully that won't happen again.
It was the best meeting ever, so now it's lost forever.
It is. I'm gonna blame reality for that one. Whoever that
That's
is. Whoever.
reality.
How's the weather down there, Tony?
Let's see. This time of year, the weather is weird in North Carolina because one day it'll
Hmm.
be 45 and the next day it'll be 82.
Yeah.
So like today's high is 60, tomorrow 70, Tuesday 78, then 80, 79, 77, 77.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's always really weird in March.
Yeah.
But February was weird this year because we had a few days that were like in the 70s, and that doesn't usually happen in February. So we had one week. We had one week in February where I don't know if y'all remember, but I had like severe snow and ice. And then the
Hmm.
next week it was 75 degrees. It's so
That's
crazy.
weird.
Yeah. But then in like May or June, it gets fucking hot and humid
Yeah.
here. We don't even barely have a spring here. It's like a couple weeks and then it's like hot. It's like in the upper 80s and 90s with like high humidity. It's like, the humidity is what kills us down here.
Uh-huh.
The heat isn't all that bad, but the humidity when it's hot, when it's humid. I remember I went to Vegas years ago and it was like 102 degrees and I was like, feels great. I was like, it's because it's a dry heat, there, and it's like I was like, this feels amazing because the humidity was so low. I didn't care. It was like,
It
but
makes a difference for sure.
huge difference. Yeah. Well, there's a few
Got a
more.
few
Annie said
more.
she'd be late. Sean said he'd be late.
You
And
make me look forward to summer.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I haven't done it here yet.
Oh, you haven't? You back now from your trip?
Yeah, yeah. I am back.
Yeah, get ready. Get ready for the humidity. It'll be nice. It'll be nice in April though. It'll be in the 70s and 80s mostly.
Yeah, I'm from the Texas Panhandle originally, so I talked to my buddy the other day. I mean, there's literally 100-degree swings in 24 hours. I mean, it can be 98 one day and then zero the next. I mean, it's
Is it humid there or is it like dry?
no, it's all dry heat. I mean,
That's
it's
cool.
the Texas Plains or whatever,
I've always
hot,
thought I
dry,
would
and
like to live in Texas.
there's so many different climates in Texas, and that's just one part of it. But I mean, it's where I grew up, but there's definitely other parts of Texas I'd prefer to go to if I ever moved back.
My mom's sister, she's like she married a guy who was a Bank of America, like basically he was like second in command of Bank of America, of like the whole thing. And he was like very, very rich. And they lived in Charlotte on Lake Norman. And but before that, they lived in Dallas. And when I was really young, like in middle school, they invited me to come out and spend time with my cousins for like 2 weeks. So I did, and that I went to Dallas, Fort Worth, and they lived in this amazing place, and I went to like a professional baseball game and all that stuff, and it was awesome. But when I was there, they lived in a super high-end neighborhood. But one night when I was there, and it was in the middle of the night, I woke up and I heard what sounded like gunshots, and it was a lot of gunshots. It wasn't like it was like, and I was like, "What is that?" And I jumped up, and all of us woke up at the same time, and we went looked out the window, and there had been a drive-by shooting across the street, and there this house had gotten shot up, and turned out it was like some major drug dealer lived across the street from them, like obviously had a lot of money, and his house got shot up. It was so crazy. I was like, whoa. And they were freaked out because they didn't know who lived there. I mean, they didn't know who he was or anything. And it was a whole big thing while I was there. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And they had police and detectives out there for days and stuff. And we would just sit out there and watch them. It's crazy.
You just never know, man. You
I
just
know.
never know who you live next to.
Yeah. But he used to come, he was like a big bike motorcycle rider, and he would fly his bikes to Europe and then ride them across Europe and stuff. And he's like 85 years old now, and his wife, my mom's sister, died like a year or two ago, but then he's 85, he still does it. He's like retired from the banking, but he still does that. And then like one year when like the Mission Impossible movies would first started, I think it was the second one, he came up, he's very like, you think of a banker like a one height. He's very like he's introverted, but he's also really rigid. But for some reason, I could get him talking when other people couldn't, because apparently, I don't know why, but just for some reason. But he drove up to it. We had a family reunion, and he drove up to the family reunion in a Ducati, the same Ducati like Tom Cruise drove in the movie. And then I was like, "Whoa, that looks familiar." And he's like, "Have you seen Mission Impossible?" I was like, "Yeah." So then he was all about wanting to tell me about the bike and stuff, and that was cool.
Uh,
Yeah, they were eccentric people. They were. I mean, it was all right. They were all right. He had like a 7,000 square foot house in Charlotte, and nobody was allowed in the basement but him. So the whole basement was like probably 3,000 square feet, and it was his. Like you're not allowed to come down there. It was like his little man cave, but it was a giant man cave, like twice the size of the condo I live in now was his man cave. Like damn.
what was he hiding down there?
Who knows? He had a room in his house that was only for model ships that he built. Like he would build model ships of like old Viking ships and Christopher Columbus ships. He had all kinds of ships, and he would build them by hand very meticulously. And then he had a room that was just glass cases of the ships he built. Like it's like whoa. He let me like peer in there. He was like, "You're too young. You're not going in there, but I'll let you look in there," because he thought I might knock them over or something. I'm like, they're in glass cases. They're like in a museum looking thing. I'm not going to knock them over. Yeah,
Well, you
he was a
might.
very strange dude, but he was also kind of cool, you know.
That's cool.
Yeah, I got a weird family all the way around.
You ain't the only one.
Yeah, I would say most people probably do. What y'all want to talk about today? I was hoping Sam would be on here so I could hear all about his day yesterday and after what he said in the group. Pete.
Good to see everybody. Uh, I was wondering if maybe you guys could talk a little bit more about diligency and I got into after that conversation with Annie a little bit about talking about death. I got into where does this belief come from, and my head exploded. I mean, my thoughts just started coming at everywhere, and I basically overwhelmed myself to the point where I had to stop. I just you know there's some discouragement coming up and all that, but I don't feel like I've got a good hold on the process, if there is one, of looking at thoughts.
Hmm.
Uh, so if you guys could talk about that a little bit, how to break down or get to maybe one thought, or where to start, and how to maybe suggestions on how I could be focused and not let all that residual stuff pull me away from what I'm doing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, if you're doing the thoughts around stuff like death, obviously that's going to bring up some big emotions too with it.
Mhm.
Just depends on what you're working on, but I would say maybe don't start with death. Maybe try to start with
Yes.
something smaller, some kind of belief you have about people or some belief you have about your daily life. And anything you're doing like that, just, dip your toe in. You know what I mean? It's like you don't have to take on the big kahuna at once, and you don't have to do it. The way I found the mind works is that when it conquers the small things, it gets confidence for the bigger things. So you have to do small momentums first, which build into really big things over time. So yeah, if you dove straight into that and you probably did get
Well, yeah, it's actually, it's a life situation. Um,
mm,
yeah, I've got emphysema. I'm acting out on stuff, so I can really relate to what Annie's going through. I'm 60 years old. I've pretty much not been kind to my body my whole life, and some of
mm.
that's still happening. And so that's why I kind of dove into that. But yeah, I can see there's definitely, like not being good enough and all that stuff. It's all there.
Yeah.
It's just I get carried away with it. So
Do you do any kind of practice like meditation or anything like that?
I've been sitting more. I kind of go with the feeling. I kind of feel like I need to start a routine. I just haven't been very very consistent with it.
What
It's like
about what about what we were talking about last time with finding someone who was like a female or any of the circling stuff? Did you look into any of that?
yeah, I've been going to Rick's Circle,
Oh yeah.
participating in that. That's I mean, it feels really good there. A bunch of great people. So I feel like I can be vulnerable in there. As far as Amy, with my finances the way it is, it's not easy for me to just make an appointment. So I've signed up for her monthly group, which will be, I guess, next Sunday. But and then here in Waynesville, there's not very many resources available, and then Medicare, I'm kind of stuck with who they have. So I'm still working with Josh once a month, and that's another thing kind of gets me. It's like, well, okay, I've got to do this, I got to do that, but I don't know, I mean, how, with
Mhm.
finances the way they are. So
Yeah.
it just gets overwhelming navigating the system, So
I think I think my best advice immediately would be to do a practice of like a meditation that is a calming meditation practice and not an insight one.
okay,
Like either a loving kindness meta one for yourself and for life, or just a concentration practice. That's like there's a bunch of those like breath at the nose and all that stuff. I did breath at the nose for like almost a year when I started meditation. It's the only thing I did at all. That's what my teacher told me to do. And it was good because it produces what they call wet insight. Dry insight is if you meditate and you're sitting immediately and you're looking at your processes immediately. They call that dry insight in like Theravada. But the dry insight can make things feel harsh because, when you do the concentration, when they call the wet insight first, you're preparing your mind to look at the other things. So the wet insight of concentration is it's relaxing and it's calming things down for things to be able to look at. If things are not calm and then you look at them directly, you get the harshness like you saw where you had to stop and
yeah,
you couldn't do that. Um, it's all a little different, like working with the beliefs or something like that, than doing what I'm talking about now. But I think a daily practice of like at least 30 minutes of a concentration or meta, because meta can be like concentration too, but something like that. And then this sounds, and I don't mean this in a bad way at all, but at your age, trying to establish meditation and going like, I'm going to do this for years and years and years. I don't know how long you have, but I'm saying if you can use meditation as a tool for calming or concentration and then actually use inquiry now on a daily basis, I think that would be better for you than being like, I'm going to meditate for an hour or two a day and really get deep into meditation. I think you need to use the meditation as a balm for concentration or relaxation, and then use inquiry for the belief work and all that kind of stuff. That's my opinion.
Well, that kind of takes a load off. So yeah, I kind of really feel like I need to take a step back. I've
Yeah.
done so much over the years, and then like we talked about, confused myself, and now it's like this urgency. I kind of feel responsible to, but I want it yesterday, and it's just getting, yeah. So that's helpful.
Those are the things that some that meditation like that will calm, and the because I was the same as you with like the hate and the anger kind of stuff that you have about certain things that I can feel
Hmm.
from you that I
Yeah,
had to something
yeah,
like meta with yourself in the world, and really applying that in visualization and calming there, and then that way with meta you don't have to have concentration. It's much more relaxed and enjoyable than like a steady, like a disciplined meditation practice. It's more relaxing, and you're just, there's all kinds of different versions of meta too, but basically it's like visualization, and some of it's mantra stuff based, which I've never done. I don't care about mantra stuff very much. But some people works really well. So, you could do one day of a concentration practice, and you could do one day of meta back at back, or if you have time, do one each day, 30 minutes each, and then do the inquiry throughout the day of whatever belief you're working on. And like I said, don't you know, don't start with that. But
right.
if you feel like I have to start with that for whatever reason, because of the way you feel, that's when you go into the feelings and not the insight immediately. You need to feel things first, because I know that you haven't felt things, and a lot of repression, and that repression will come out sideways in the anger and the frustration that you talk about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, I appreciate it. Gives me a little direction
Yeah.
without pressure.
Yeah,
Appreciate
yeah, yeah. Don't put any
it.
pressure, that's for sure.
Thanks.
Hmm.
I could talk, but I don't know how to raise my hand. I have no clue how to raise
It's
hands.
in the bottom in the reactions somewhere in that little
Yeah,
heart thing, if I remember right.
I'll have to figure it
But
out. But I'll just introduce myself. I haven't
yeah.
said anything. I'm Holly. Um, I basically where I'm at right now, through just inquiry a couple of years ago, I was raised Christian and very, very, very Christian. My whole family, I mean, indoctrinated from a baby on. But through just inquiry, I went, what the? And I, looked into the fear, and I just saw this is all nothing. So that dropped. And then I went on a kind of a anxiety spiral, probably for, just realizing in hindsight, like there was this low grade, like, uneasy, but also the world is my oyster. Like, what the hell? What's going on? Why am I married? What are my morals? All that kind of stuff. And that all worked out okay, but I did come down to a kind of like a crash, um, really deep despair, deep, deep. I quit my job, which is fine. I was able to do that, but um,
When did you say that this happened?
well, the Christian thing happened probably. I mean, it's now in hindsight, you could look back and I could be like, it was unraveling, right? Like
Hmm.
since my last divorce or whatever, when I saw a lot of stuff and I saw the manipulations and I went, what's going on in the world? And then grasping onto Christianity, hopefully it will get me out of that hole. So I don't know, but the initial where I was sitting in my room one day and went, I'm an atheist. I have to confess to my husband, I'm an atheist. I wash my hands of this. Like or whatever. Just that was probably that's probably 4 years ago.
Hmm.
And then and then I became a coach too. And I didn't know anything about non-duality or anything like that. I just was listening to my own gut while I was a Christian and venturing out and going, looking at my experience more closely. And I became a coach under a coach, but I don't remember her calling herself non-duality. I didn't know what that was, but through her just talking, she was a doctor. So I guess I was thinking, she's like, I was getting like outside counsel. Anyway, so then now I'm just, I went through massive anger that I didn't know where it came from. Like it was blowing me away. Anger towards um, just everything, right? Like
Yeah.
the women, just the way just realizing how I was treated and what I put up with, and just a lot about men and society and against women, that kind of thing, the patriarch. And but anyway, so I, instead of like super deep diving after that, I just kind of like explored, just explored, and I came to the bottom of exploration, and I was so, I went through the anger that went through, and then I was just so devastated. I can't even hardly describe it. But anyway, I feel a little bit better now, but I just went into this no seeking, resting, just rest, just whatever, just letting myself be like not seeking, but still sort of seeking, of course. But that's where I'm right now. But I noticed still some of that anger there. But that's why I think I was listening to your video, some of the stuff was hitting me that was helpful. But I feel like something's poked through it a little bit more deeply, just even this last week. And it's the devastation, all the stuff. I think it all boils down to the uncertainty that I need so bad, right? That I've needed my whole life and didn't know that was so controlling my life,
Mm-hmm.
controlling my everything, like I stayed in a marriage way too long before with somebody that was alcoholic, and it was not healthy, and I was trying to do the right thing and be the good mom and good wife and good sister and good daughter and just a Christian woman. And then I just was like, finally I exploded and I got out of that. But that comes down to, fear of change, fear, having that certainty. And so now I'm exploring the uncertainty a little bit more gently, I guess, in the day to day.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you have uh anger and resentment at your husband and yourself, maybe for staying in it when you should, longer than you felt you should have now.
Yeah, well, I went to Al-Anon and did that for years, and that was the first part of breaking out, of even venturing away from Christianity. It was kind of like a taboo to even go to an Al-Anon meeting, right? Like that was so ridiculous looking back, that control. And then that got me to the point where I didn't feel quite as a sinner or whatever. I started to realize sin was bull. Like there's no such thing as a sin. Like there's just humanness. And then I kind of sort of grew out of Al-Anon. Like I went, I don't really, this was helpful, but it wasn't anymore. It was just,
I've heard of Al-Anon, but I don't quite know what it
it's
is.
just the 12 steps, AA,
Okay, okay.
And so, and that worked for a time. And then that's when I found I had these epiphanies in the shower where I was like, what's going on in my head? Like, I don't know. I just felt that separate that I what it was, that moment of clarity is what happened in the shower where I was like, uh, this isn't real or isn't me, or I thought this was me and it's not, this thought pattern that I had,
Right.
whatever.
Okay.
And that's when I started venturing out. That's when I started finding stuff about non-duality, which I'd never heard about, or investigating and how to look in your thoughts and stuff. But yeah, so the anger can still pop up. Like I don't really think about my ex-husband anymore because I feel like a lot of that, I don't see him, anything to do with him. But the anger is still resonating when I go around my family, which I don't very much because I moved to Colorado. They live in Washington, and that was part of getting away. I don't even know if I would have even gotten where I am right now being around my family, that would have been probably kind of hard, like to deconstruct.
Do you have a hard time with your family too now? Or
Well, I just got out of the caretaker mode,
mm,
and it kind of blew up in me because I started setting boundaries and feeling the uncomfortableness of a boundary because nobody has them in my family. And I was just sitting there and I would go, oh, this is interesting. I would sit there with myself. This is interesting. Like I told my mom, no, look, oh, look how she's acting. I didn't know she was that way. Like she basically she went out of her little, I'm a perfect mom and I'm so sweet and loving to, well, you better watch out for the devil. You know what I mean? Or, tell me I'm going to
yeah.
hell. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
whoa.
I know that one.
So, and then this just, sitting with it and realize you can't do anything about it, but just at least I can leave and go to Colorado. I'm not really around them that much. So, but yeah, every once in a while I go back because I got grandkids I'll go see that live there. But the last time I went back, I guess it's the first time I said it to my mom's face, like in the moment, like sort of came out. I was like, I don't believe any of that anymore. Like it's gone. Like gone. Like I can say fuck Jesus. I don't believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, do you understand? Like I'm not here with you in this. Anyway, just saw more of the colors, but then I saw my own anger. I'm like, gosh, that was I don't even anyway, just that
Yeah.
that anger. But what I was feeling, what I was going to tell you was after listening to some of the videos and just a little bit more softness that started to come in. And it just felt soft in terms of I was driving through town the other day and I was feeling a little bit of trigger because it was by my old church where I used to lead and do recovery meet. I mean, I was very involved there and I don't know. I just was driving through the area and having that come up. And then I was in my own presence instead at the time, like driving, like feeling the steering wheel and just feeling sensory stuff. And then it kind of zooped up out of me and just went, oh, it's sad, but it wasn't me sad. It was just sadness was okay. It was like sadness can come with me. I was on the way to the dentist. Sadness could come with me to the dentist going through these old memories, those memories were just, but it felt softer. I went, wow, I'm not like, like go run to go to run in the pastor's face and go, this isn't true. Didn't you go to college, or anything, which I would never say that, but I would wonder, like, really? Anyway.
There's a lot of people in this group, my group, that have like a resentment towards religion in some form or another, which I get.
It's
What
kind
do
of
you
it's kind of like what do you do? Like I'll read stuff online and it kind of helps, but then it's like, do I really I don't know. Like
take what's useful and discard the rest?
yeah.
Do you miss like a community aspect of that?
That's kind of an interesting, that's part of the feeling that I was learning when I was driving through there when I was separating and I went, oh, where's this fear? And I went to the bottom of the fear and I was like, I was, what was I getting from this, And it
Mhm.
was the idea of certainty, and it's not certainty. And then you're with the community. I guess it was a belonging, but it's only so much belonging. It's not really belonging.
Yeah.
Like when you get down to your really who you are, like I was, and dissecting my fears, nobody was with me in that. They're like, whoa, So there,
Well, when you start getting to the bottom of it, like you're talking about, eventually you discover like there is no place to stand.
yeah,
There is no certain place to stand,
yeah,
but because there isn't, and you realize that, then you can stand anywhere at any
yeah,
time, and it doesn't matter. So you could be in the midst of your mom and her religious spouting and going to hell stuff, and then it won't affect you.
right,
But there is a process of seeing, like looking into this. Uh, can you see like the innocence of your mom conditioned by her Christian religion, and that her algorithm is operating in a conditioned groove just like yours has been, just like where you would say when you were with your ex-husband and he was doing what he was doing and you stayed far too long because of people pleasing or trying to do the right thing or thinking you got to do this as a wife or a mother or a
Right.
daughter. Can you see how you were not aware of it until you were?
Yeah.
Same with your mom. Same with
Yeah.
my mom.
I can see all that. And then I also have that little bit of like, I I sort of don't 100% trust myself as far as getting roped into feeling like I'm all used up again. So that little bit is there, but maybe I should probably not worry about that so much. It's
Well, I'm not
yeah.
saying you should dive back in. It makes
No.
total sense to take time for yourself away from that in the first place because that's what was pulling you, and then to, you know, rest or just work on your own things and keep that at an arm's length for sure. It doesn't,
Yeah.
not until you're ready to do anything with that. And then even when you are ready, it doesn't mean you have to do anything about it.
Yeah, I'm getting used to that too. Like just being I'm okay. Like
Mhm.
I'm perfectly fine with the way everything is right now. And
Well, like a sneaky mechanism under a lot of this stuff is the should and shouldn'ts.
yeah.
So like if you're taking time away from your mom or whatever, or those places that used to be for whatever reason, like within you operating, there is a should or shouldn't. My mom shouldn't say I should go to hell, or
No.
my mom should realize that I don't believe what she believes. And then there's
Right.
also a shouldn't, a should with like that guy you said, didn't you go to college? Don't you know that that's a should. You're
Right.
shooting onto him too.
That's the part
And
that I
that makes, but
let go.
that grabbiness, that grasping onto those shoulds is making you suffer
Yes.
when you could be around them without those shoulds and they can do what they can do and you could do what they do, what you do. And even if they say whatever they say, you're unaffected because you're okay with where you're at.
Yeah.
So there's some part of you that may not be okay with where you're at, or maybe believe a part of them believes you either maybe believe that a part of them could still be right, or you believe that they're so wrong and that you're right that they should change the way they think and act.
Well, I think it still comes down to my whole needing everything to be a certain way for me to be okay, which is
Right.
the bottom line, right? Like,
Yeah. It's like trying to carpet the whole earth instead of putting shoes on.
yeah,
That's not is never going to work, right?
right,
Even outside, right outside your door at the store or something, people
right.
believe all kinds of stuff that's never gonna you're never gonna convince, and it's exhausting. Think about how exhausting it is to try to convince people that you don't believe something anymore, and they
Well,
believe,
that's another thing is the exhaustion. I was exhausted, and that depleted me to the point where I'm still there, where I'm pretty careful with my energy, like big time. So
so what's your views right now of reality?
of
You
reality,
said atheist before. What is
yeah.
your views now?
Well, I guess I don't believe in any gods, but I think I like I like looking at archetypes. I think that's cool and I think they're helpful, right? If you want to play with it in your imagination. And I mean, I played with tarot cards for a while and had fun with those, and those just felt like seeking to me, so I don't even use them anymore, but they were just like learning things, I guess, about archetypes and personality types, that kind of thing, but it only gets you I feel like you just go in a circle and you're just gonna
Yeah, well, part of the seeking part of it, the seeking mechanism is believing that the next thing is going to be an answer.
yeah,
But realization is realizing that all of those things arise within what you are. So
yeah,
you can use any of them as a tool, but they are within you. You are not based within their system.
right,
And that's very powerful because then anything can be used or discarded.
yeah,
Any belief can be used for whatever reason or discarded. You
right,
know, like I knew a woman, um, there was a lady who was a Christian. She was very devout and she was someone I knew, but she was not judgmental. And it was all everything she talked about. She was very loving and very open, but she did believe in Jesus and she had believed Jesus died for her sins and all of that. But her knee-jerk judgment wasn't there, but she used to always say, it's not my will, it's God's will, or whatever. And that was like a central belief. Now think about non-duality and what we talk about with non-grasping. She was she was using a belief to non-grasp her life and hand it all over to God. And AA does that kind of stuff too. And Alyssa tells me
Hmm.
about AA
Yeah.
does that kind of stuff. It's like the mechanism is fine.
Yeah.
Doesn't even matter what it arises in a religion or an AA or a business or anything. It doesn't matter. It's the view you're taking. So because she had that, she doesn't even need anything else. She was living very non-graspy, very non-resistance because of that belief in Jesus. And that's totally great. That is using your paradigm of reality in a certain way. And in non-duality, I'm starting to really hate that word, by the way. I don't care nothing about non-duality at all. Non-duality is like, well, let's look at non-duality, and then you got people who believe things about non-duality, and then they want to argue about non-duality, but living the actual vibrant expression of non-duality doesn't care. Non-duality itself then becomes another tool, you know?
Right.
Yeah. But realization after a realization, when you see all this stuff is arising in you, not in you, Holly, but in you, the greater field, and Holly arises in it, just like all her conditions do, and all
Hmm.
your mom's conditions do, and that preacher's conditions do. Then there's a ungrasping or a letting things be as they are, letting people believe what they believe, and letting I mostly do that now pretty easily. Like I don't care what my mom tells me I'm going to hell too. It does not affect me whatsoever anymore. It used to make me angry. Like I didn't believe her or anything like that, but it
Right.
used to make me angry because she's my mom. But now
They
it
don't
doesn't.
think they're insulting or something. They don't think
Yeah,
it's insulting.
right. Because working through it and see what I've seen, it's like you're seeing the burning coal in her hand and she's trying to hand it to you, and you just simply don't grasp. You don't have to throw it back in her face. Just say, I'm not touching that like this. And then
Yeah.
she has no choice but to hold it. But if you push back on her, it's like you're grabbing the hot coal and trying to throw it back in her face, and you're burning yourself with anger and your own conclusions and
Right.
defensiveness. But that's what non-grasping is. It's just like I'm simply not going to do that. And it's the same with thoughts. That thought can come and go. I'm not going to play with it. I'm just off. I'm hands off. Whether it's an anger thought, a doubt thought, grasping
Right.
thought, righteous indignation thought.
Mm.
You should believe this because you went to college. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
he could have had a deep experience of something direct and then framed it in the Jesus way, and then be totally fine.
That's
Now
what I
he
think
may never
too.
realize that he is the field and it's arising in the field, but the tool he is using is a tool that works good for him. If he's judging others about it and saying they're going to, then that's a suffering on his from his
Right.
projection. But we don't care about their projections. We only care about how your life is living. Your projection is what's appearing in your vision, your reality.
Right.
So you get to the point where you don't care about others unless they're obviously, if someone's invading my personal space and I'm like, yeah, get back. Or
Yeah.
if someone's kicking a dog in front of me, you better believe I'm not letting their projections do that in front of me. But then you also I can't go around and save the world from every person who's kicking a dog, even if I would want to.
Right.
So that's what we try to talk about here in the group. And it's like, that's why I'm so adamant about working with beliefs, because they're like the fabric of your algorithm. And then I also try to point people to the wider idea of what non-duality says of, you're the field which it all happens in. And then so that's what I try to do both with this group, is talk about the algorithm and talk about the belief,
Hmm.
because there's really not a difference. It's just the belief in the separate self that makes the algorithm seem like it's separate from everything else. But when that collapses, it's just conditions forming and unforming based on, and that's why I always talk about direct seeing or clear seeing, because clear seeing doesn't require the person to do anything. It's just seeing, and then the
Yeah.
non-grasping happens. So the whole time you're trying to change beliefs or do something with your mother or preacher or whatever, you're grasping, you're reaching out, or you're
Yeah.
trying to control or shooting it. And that
Right.
seeing creates the ungrasping, and that changes your algorithm, your life. Something in your algorithm changed when you got tired of people pleasing, the husband alcoholic situation,
Hmm.
whatever that was.
Yeah, I
It
got to
wasn't
my
a doing, it was a seeing, and then you had enough, and then the seeing created a different, it automatically created a different action, and a different algorithm emerged, because your algorithm changes every moment of every day. There's no static, it's impermanent. But if you keep thinking the same thoughts, which creates the same beliefs over and over again, it appears solid and permanent because it keeps showing up the same way.
right.
Yeah.
I've been having a lot more space because I've
Yeah.
been, yeah.
Are you married now, or are you
I'm married to a
married
really
again?
great guy. Like when I told him, I don't believe in God, he took him a day. He went, yeah.
That's good.
Easy. And he's super supportive and just, yeah.
But do you have to make a conclusion about I believe in God or I don't believe in God? Because atheism is just another belief in
Right.
the
I
system.
figured that one out too. I mean, I'm nothing, I guess, but
But do you even have to say that? Do you have to
I,
make a conclusion at all about reality? I
I
made a
heard
video I
video.
just released this morning called
I know.
Conclusions.
I
It was all
listened
about
to
that.
that.
Okay.
I figured out I talked to ChatGPT a lot, and my conclusions are in there. But that's hard not to make conclusions. It's constant. It's just like
That's a conditioned. It's a conditioned thing
it.
we do in the world. And that's what this is, though. It's unraveling conditions. That's why we're here. And
Yeah.
most people don't. Most people don't touch it.
Right. It feels
Um,
way easier to not have a conclusion. Like, oh, I gotta worry about that. I just
so
want
it's funny when people are talking about seeking, we're talking about self and no self. Self, there is a self as a conclusion. There is no self as a conclusion
to.
as
Yeah.
well. And people believe the no self conclusion. They're like, oh, I believe in there's no self, and you see them going around spouting people and telling people there's no self. There's no realization there, because after the realization, both of those disappear, and then there's a middle way of like it appears to be a self, but there's no separate self operating, but it is appearing, so it's both and neither, and
Right.
that's a relaxation too, and an ungrasping. Um, and then after that, it'd be just working with the algorithm, for from then on. But yeah, it's like any conclusion you make where you say, I don't believe in God, da 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 da. It's like, okay, that could be an extreme view, though, that can make you suffer.
Right.
Actually doesn't need to be there. When you're living in mystery, you're living in immediacy, and you take things each moment as they come, whether it's a hard emotion or a thought or a good emotion or an action, whatever it is. And then when you live from that place, when your mom says, you're going to hell. There's a realization from your end that her algorithm is conditioned that way. And then
Mhm.
there's a feeling of compassion and innocence that she's stuck. That's what the liberation of all sentient beings is about in Buddhism, It is a compassion, a natural compassion. It's not forced, like, I'm going to be compassionate for my mother, even though I secretly hate her. It's like, I've seen what this is, and then there's a relaxation there. And then when she says things to you that are hurtful, your reactive nature is calmed down, much more stillness there. And then even if you don't like it, the defensiveness doesn't have to arise in you because you know what you are. And then you can let her be what she is, even if it makes her suffer bitterly to the end. That's how my mother is. She's not getting out of her loop at
No,
all. She is one, her loop is as solid as it gets.
that's how my mom is.
And you have to be okay with that. But you can still love them. You can still care about them, and then maybe you can be around them.
Yeah.
But if they're too pushy, then maybe be like, well, you're too pushy. I'm not talking to you.
Yeah.
Is when my mom called me a while back and I told everybody here, she got real pissed off and was screaming at me, or like doing her, like, like very angry, like tight. And I just hung up on her very lightly. I didn't go, fuck you. And then, I just, bloop, because I was watching something I was enjoying immensely, got on the phone with her and she ruined it with her talking. So I just simply hung up. It was like, your projection is there. And she called me back 10 times, leave me a couple messages being mad and blah, 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 blah. I was shitty son for hanging up on her and all this stuff. But that's her algorithm trying to drag me into her bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you get defensive or reactive, you're like in the algorithm with her. Now you're in a storm together.
Well, I'll set a boundary just really lightly, like I don't want to talk about that, or I'm not. No,
Yeah.
I'm not I do what you're saying or whatever. And it just turned in it's my mom's not like angry, she's manipulative.
But if you see that clearly, she
I
can't
do.
manipulate. A manipulator cannot manipulate you if you see it
Right.
clearly.
But I'll get angry like, Mom, do you hear yourself? Like
Yeah. You're
and she
trying to
got
convince her.
yes.
If
And
you're
then
not convincing her, there's no grasping, and then that's going to piss her off more because she can't drag you
yeah,
back into her thing.
it amps her up more and then I know I'm doing
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
she's amped and I'm not.
Right.
Yeah, I
And
get
that's great.
it's
And
just
you can be around her. You can even get to the point where you're just like you're not laughing at her, but you're kind of like, all right, you know. And then if that makes her enraged more, then you simply remove yourself from the situation.
right.
Like I love you, but I'm not going to be around you when you're like this. I don't have to believe what you believe.
Yeah.
If you can't get down with that, I guess I won't see you. And then she suffers because she doesn't get to see her daughter. And if she lives in that and stews in it, and she's like, well, that's her problem.
Sure.
It's like what I told Sam yesterday in the recording. It's like that's your dad's problem, not your
Yeah.
problem. Not living in immediacy, it's not. You know.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you do any kind of practice or anything right now?
Um, I I do a lot of do nothing meditation. That's the most calming or most, and I'll just sit and be with everything. Um,
Do you get a
sometimes,
lot of do you get a lot of motion coming up from that?
yeah, sometimes like early on, I would lay down. I would I'll feel off and I'll just go lay down and it's just out of the blue. I'll start crying. Sometimes there's not even a thought with it. It's just sobbing or something. Grief. There is grief. I guess getting used to the grief or not pushing it away or not wallowing either. Or I don't know. Sometimes I would ignore it and watch Netflix because I hadn't watched TV for about 2 years because I think I had too much anxiety to sit down and watch TV. I don't know. I was partying, did some partying. Um, yeah, because I never did anything.
Mhm.
So I found friends that like gave me some drugs and stuff. And that was fine for a while, but that's not really my thing.
Yeah.
I don't drink, but that's just me. It's not because I'm against alcohol. But I
Well,
also
you've been around here now. You know that the watching the Netflix can be an avoidance from the feeling, the anxiety. So
but I also can't do that. Like I can't really avoid it. Like it does come up. So I can't just nothing works. So I guess I do go and run to meditation and let all the emotions come out just by myself. Um, and then I even found like I would talk to ChatGPT, but sometimes I'll tell ChatGPT, well, this is a pointless conversation. Like I'm tracking things. Like I'm not tracking doesn't work anymore either. Like keeping track or like I used to journal and I did so much digging before that I put myself into I don't know, I thought maybe I dug myself down into that bottom piece where I was like, wow, this is never going to end. Like, this is just deep core.
well, now being in the bottom, you know that you need to feel things instead of figure it out, right?
Yeah. So I'll just feel.
Yeah.
I mean, I avoid too, but
Yeah.
then I wind up going back to feeling. So yeah,
How are you working on feeling? I mean, are you able to do that without much resistance, or are you battling with thoughts during that process?
um, I feel like it just forces its way out. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's the thought loops you were talking about. Those were coming out big time this last few months. For a while, there wasn't a bunch of thought loops. It was just so much sadness that, like, I would just burst into tears, like driving through a part of town, or we had to move, and I was just like, I don't care where we live, and like I didn't care about anything. And my husband is really sweet, and my son, my oldest son, my youngest son, he's like 28, they just take care of me. They're like, we'll move you. We're fine. We got it. Well, you can, I don't know. They're just super supportive through that. Now I'm a little bit more back to normal, but
Are you able to like have you seen and worked with any of Angelo's or mine or Josh's videos or
no. And I was
anything with
wondering,
shadow work and feeling and stuff?
no. And I just didn't know, like, I probably wasn't sure if that I dug so much, like I said, I would do yoga, take a microdose, and I got to the core. One time in my sauna, I got to like the core. How do you describe it? It was like the deepest, it felt like,
Core wound.
yeah, I just felt like the hurt that drove me, that's driving my life. I saw it and I just had this moment and that was the end. I was like, oh my God, this is never gonna go away.
But have you tried any step-by-step processes to process emotion?
Um, Not since then. I mean, I used to do Alan, like I said, I did 12 steps. I faced stuff like with people and with the mentor and
Well, I mean actually just feeling the emotions, not working with it in an insight way. I mean
uh,
actual feeling of emotions.
not any more than just sitting with them in my bedroom until they pass now.
That's where your work is now.
That's all I do.
That's where your work is. Your work is not just sitting with them till they pass. That's good too. But with working with the part of you that might not be accepting it with thought or a belief about it or are hoping it'll go away,
Right.
you have to get to the point of accepting it as what you are.
That's probably where I'm at, like because
Yeah.
I can't, like I'm like
Right.
I'm kind of like it's against my will or whatever. Like I wish I could. I wanted to go out and have a career. I had all these plans. I went back
Well,
to
like
school.
against your will is just thoughts. Whatever they thought, whatever those thoughts are, you're against your will blanket statement. There are thoughts
Right.
there that is not allowing you to feel those emotions.
Okay.
So, I have a few videos on emotions, but Angelo has a shitload about working with emotions. And then, whoever you like, but also someone who's a proper therapist on emotion work, specifically shadow work. There's a few that Angelo has listed, and then there's circling, and then there's all kinds of stuff related to that. But that's where your work is right now, not more insight for the moment.
It
Not,
kind of seems like it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I'm sure you have a lot of repressed anger and resentment that's still there from your husband and your family of like that you live and probably yourself too. Blame, you probably have some self blame there about why did I stay there so long or why did I do this or
Probably.
why did it mess my life up so bad? Why haven't I done career that I want, whatever it is, just the bits that you've mentioned. But you really need to get to the bottom of that emotions, the repressed sensations and energy that's down in there. Strip them of their labels and meaning and really feel the sensations themselves
Hmm.
to process them right. It's good to sit, like you said, and let them come and go until they come and go, but you know, they will keep reoccurring. And if they're solidified in a thought or a label about them, then they could just keep beating you up. But if you can process them, strip them down, start, and this is what the insight of it is that you see that it's actually what you are. It's not Holly having an emotion, it's an emotion arising in the field. And then take the emotion away. It's an energy riding in the field. Take the word energy away. It's a sensation arising in the field. Take field away, sensation away, and then it's just this mysterious experience that is coming and going in what you are as what you are. That's the end or the full acceptance. So however you get to that point is what you work on now.
Huh. I guess that's a little overwhelming just because I've been so emotional.
Mhm. But your the emotionalness you're talking about is also meshed. Thoughts are meshing with that emotion you don't realize right now.
Yeah, yeah, you're probably right.
That's what you need to strip away and deconstruct and then get to just the sensations of the emotion themselves, the emotional energy. If I was giving you a direct one right now, I would say go to Angelo's emotions playlist and just look and see what the titles are and see what sticks out for you as something and watch and then put into practice what he suggests in those videos for a few weeks and see what happens. And
Okay.
then report back here and we'll talk about it more.
Yeah, because there's a lot of grief, and I don't know if that ever goes away or what, but it's
It
always
it may not go away in the way you're describing it, but
right.
the perspective on it can change. Even the word grief, even what you think grief is, can change. And you can
Yeah.
experience it a very different way, even if it keeps coming around forever.
Right. That makes sense.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
If Holly goes away and grief goes away and there's just this arising experience,
Right.
is there anything wrong with that?
No,
Is there any extra suffering, or is it just
it's just what it is.
consciousness arising as this whirlpool of energy at the moment that
Yeah.
is wants its due, wants to be seen, and then it goes and deconstructs into something else? Maybe joy, maybe neutrality.
Yeah.
You know, just try that for a while for his playlist. I have like two videos I think on emotions, but his are better, frankly. They're more detailed.
All right. I'll check it out.
Yeah, cool. I think Jack was next, if I remember right.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey, that always takes a second,
I know you're always fighting with your unmute button.
right? It's like part of my phone is broken, and so there's a lot of little features in there, so I have to like kind of blindly try to remember that where they are on a certain part of the app, like on different apps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. Um, yeah, I think a lot has happened for me. I feel like I've definitely been sort of subconsciously uploading a lot of you with like the videos into my head, but it's like it comes some of the stuff you were just saying in the last 20 minutes, I've been telling myself. It's like I've taken it on as like my own insight. Then I hear you and I
Nice.
was like, oh, that's where that came from.
It's
But
just
that
insight.
last
Nobody owns it. Yeah.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a good thought to absorb.
Hmm.
But your video about like this is where the magic happens,
Yeah.
um, that was really helpful just to remind myself just to come back to sensation and stop trying to solve problem or even thinking there's a problem.
All right.
Because I've had Ona has been here for 3 weeks,
Hmm.
and we've both had lots of stuff come up, lots of like tremoring, lots of shaking, lots of like noticing that at one point we were out walking around down, we're both like pretty active people. Like
Hmm.
we just get agitated sitting around. Like it's really nice to like lie around and
Hmm.
have like a nice breakfast together. But then after a while, like we both just start getting a little sketchy and have to walk. We had a day where it literally we both just something was going on energetically. Like I felt like I was in the middle of like a insane, not visually, but like feeling wise, it felt like this nightmare DMT trip I had. Like it was like everything was crackling and even
Hmm.
like out, like everything. I was like, oh shit, like I'm just going through something right now. I better just sit here. And we started having a conversation about like the future, about like, how we might make this work or like what do I want out of life. And I've always, at least the last decade, I have never been able to say like this is exactly what I want out of life and this is where I'm going. Like I've kind of just been like, I'm gonna try some blacksmithing and put a forge in and then I'm gonna try this and I work out a bit.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, there's not this like direct future goal. And every time I start to talk about it, it gets like I get really agitated. And
Hmm.
then I noticed we were both feeling bad and then we were trying to solve the problem. And I was like, hold on a second. What happens if we stop labeling this and we stop trying to solve this problem and we just like sit here? And then we just had like a big laugh and a hug
Perfect.
and it was fine. And I was like, oh, there we go. Like there's just something about especially the
If
way,
you stay in immediacy, you don't have to solve anything
right?
about your
Yeah, and
life
it
at
just
all,
gets,
really.
yeah. And every time I try to solve, like, because even the feeling now, like, there's definitely like a bit of like a thing going on right now, like that I would call anxiety, maybe. I don't know. But
Hmm.
and then I'm trying to be like, maybe this is excitement. Again, like I'm trying to transmute it into something that's going to get me going to a
Yeah.
place where then I won't, this is because I'm dissatisfied and I got to do something about it. And then
Well,
I remember like, oh,
solving is like a future word as well.
right?
Solving is
Yeah.
time. Because you think
Yeah.
about solving the case, you're going to go
Yeah.
through this process, and then sometime in the future, the detective
Mhm.
will solve the case.
Right.
Jack will
Like
solve
I'm
the
gonna go
case
get
of his
a
life, and sometime in the future.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
just
I'm gonna go get a
enjoying,
motorcycle.
yeah, but just enjoying her being there for 3 weeks, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, on a daily basis, if you just enjoy each other and the presence and the da da da,
Hmm.
what will come up to do will come up to do next.
Hmm.
Solving
And so I've
your
had.
career or whatever it is with her,
Mhm.
between the two of you feeling that energy is probably a lot of presence, probably a lot of energy coming up, and you're feeling some of that. And yeah, some of it you could label anxiety, or like you said, it could be excitement. You don't not really sure which, and you don't need to
Right.
solve that.
No.
But if you can sit with it and feel it, get some stillness and presence going, and feel that, it will change and solve itself. It will tell you what's next in
Yeah.
one version or another, one way or another.
I had some stuff like come up like around like the like my heart. Like she did some Reiki and she was just noticing like I feel like a lot of guilt about not being able to share like love. She
Mm,
was like it felt like there was glass over my chest and I've been
yeah.
feeling this kind of compression, like this unable to want to participate in anything with anyone for like a while. And then she like broke that. And then I started like my heart's been like tender and I've been just
Mm.
crying a lot. So
This is vulnerability to another person that you care about.
yeah, yeah. So I've been having a lot
It
of
sounds
big,
to me, based on what you said, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like y'all are deciding whether to make a relationship out of this or not. Is that right?
mhm,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
But even
well,
that feels like a
it
kind of
is.
yeah.
But what I'm saying is, in the past, you told me in the one-on-one, and you just said in your own way just now that you've been closed off to stuff and you've been like whatever. Well, now another piece of reality is coming to your experience and is offering you something different.
Mhm,
Maybe it's something to listen to, but you
yeah.
also don't have to solve it. You just deal with it. You deal with it how it is right now. So if she's coming up and there's thoughts or there's things coming up that are being expressed about what can we do? Is this something that we could go forward with? Yada yada yada. They'll be talking about that in presence will always be. Now I'm not saying what's certain or uncertain, but talking about that in presence together will always be better than going away and thinking about it on your own or letting your thoughts
Oh
rule
yeah.
what you think. And then if
Right.
she gets in her head about something or you get in your head about it and y'all both trying to start solve it like a case, then
Hmm.
there could be a lot of fears and stuff come up. Could be like, oh, I'm not doing that. Oh, that's too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't give that to that person. But if you stay
Hmm.
in immediacy and feel the feelings like you're talking about without the label and just keep it in the presence, something will emerge one way that will be clear. There will be some clarity around what to do with the
Hmm.
relationship.
Yeah. For me, it feels like the less talk and the better on all fronts. Like the less thinking
Yeah,
and just yeah.
sure.
It always feels better. Like we have had some really good conversations that have felt like a lot has happened, but then sometimes there's conversations where I'm like, oh, we're both in our head right now.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
there's a different feel to
There is. It's presence.
yeah.
If
Okay.
you're talking in
Yeah.
presence, then
Yeah. Because
I mean,
sometimes I have like
reality, there's nothing
feelings.
wrong with thoughts and words. Reality expresses itself too in thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
words. That's how we communicate. It's how we get shit done in one way or another. You know what I mean? People ain't building a building without talking to each other about it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or a relationship. It's like, that's part of it too. It doesn't have to be dismissed, but if it's done in presence, like you're talking about, I mean, you felt like you're very intuitive about this already. You felt the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you felt
Oh
that it
yeah.
was going that way and you said, hold on, let's stop. And then y'all had a laugh when you started getting that's presence. That's what you did.
Right.
You both realized that presence was there. Now you both
Yeah.
don't have to get back into presence. You don't have to be like, hold on, let's go back to presence because presence never it was there the whole time, during and after, before. You just
Mm-hmm.
realized that it was still there to be looked at, and you're like, oh, why are we operating from here? Let's operate from here because it's both here
Yeah.
right now, and we can choose one. We can be in one or the other. So you can be
Yeah.
lost in the thought loop, or you can be in the presence that's here already, that's always been there, that's what y'all are, and then have a discussion. And
Yeah.
that's what you are. And then if tough emotions come up or defensiveness comes up, if you're in presence, you're trying to operate from there. At least if you're both saying, I want to do that, and it's important in intention, even if a hard emotion or a hard thought or defensiveness comes up, if there's a little bit of stillness, a space there, you can recognize that as a conditioning instead of getting defensive or saying, oh,
Yeah.
you can be like,
I've definitely been recognizing like a lot of that. And then as far as like emotions coming up, it seems like we're both grieving other things. Like she was just in a really kind of manipulative relationship that made her feel very trapped. And then I was obviously previously in like a really unsupportive, manipulative relationship. So I think every time one of us is freaking out, we'll just be like, hey, it's okay. I'm just going to sit here with you. And then we'll both just have a big cry about it and feel better.
it's fantastic. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
basis of you have the great basis of the beginnings of a relationship. I can tell you that because you've
Mm.
both been through some shit. You both have awareness. You're both willing to look. You're both willing to feel. You're both willing to let go of your positions and get
Yeah.
into the and get stay in the presence. I always say get back, and I don't mean to because I hate referring to it that way.
Yeah.
It's just a habit. But yeah, I mean,
It
for an
is
actual
noticing it.
relationship, if you're wondering about it, you
Mhm.
have the you both have great tools to start one. You both are in
Yeah.
a great position for that.
So at
So
this point, like it's gone kind of so well with like watching. I know the stuff that doesn't feel good is like old. Like I
old,
can
yeah.
just, yeah, it's just old stuff that's, um, but yeah, we're probably gonna, after I go to school, I have enough money saved. We're probably gonna go meet in Thailand and go
Hmm.
climbing. So then it's gonna be like 3 weeks of hanging out like in normal life, and then 3 weeks of hanging out in because we both traveled quite a bit,
Hmm.
and I think some yeah, we wanted to see what we would be like on the road
Yeah.
as the yeah.
It sounds really good to me. I mean, you also don't have to rush anything either. Neither
No,
one of you have to rush, but
yeah, we're both pretty clear on that one of
yeah.
like not we don't want the other one to feel. I think it was just like I don't want to own you.
Yeah, right,
Like
right,
and
right.
any of my stuff is my stuff, and I
Well,
just
there's
want
no,
all
if
of
you're
it.
both in presence, nothing's owning anybody. Because how can
Right.
presence own itself?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Okay.
presence can't own itself. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the fact is, usually in a relationship, either someone knows and the other person doesn't. But if two people are aware and they're, I don't want to say spiritually inclined because I don't like spirituality, but if they're aware of what the way you're talking, then something really great can happen because there's awareness and they're seeing. You don't have to do anything. But if you both are seeing clearly, like you're talking about, when those fearful emotions came up, you said, "Hold on, wait, let's stop this," and that's
Mm,
clear seeing. So if you both
right.
can do that, I mean,
Perfect.
it's a fantastic basis for starting a foundation of whatever it becomes.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
definitely been really helpful because of that fact. Like
yeah.
there are times when I've caught her and me doing it, but then sometimes she'll catch us doing it and just
Mm. Well,
we
see
just
that's like what I was telling Holly too, is that if you
mm,
have if you have the ability to recognize your conditioning and the other's conditioning and realize where it's coming from and there's an understanding where it's coming from, which is also a seeing, then there's a relaxation of the blame and the defensiveness and the you did this to me or you're doing this. It's like you will do that. But if there's understanding what conditioning is and where it comes from, and there's a relaxing of the self grasping, the self defensiveness, then in the presence, there's like innocence there, and then you can fuck up and she can fuck up and you can forgive each other. And if you do it in
yeah.
presence, if you do that in presence, then the resentment doesn't build or anything like that. The toxic
Mhm.
part of it is when people go off in their own thoughts and they don't
Right.
express them to the other, whether it's fear or defensiveness or guilt or shame. When they don't express them to the other, that's when resentment builds off to the side in the future And then eventually in the presence, it comes back, and then there's a bunch of
Yeah.
defensiveness and stuff.
Yeah. The whole shit show.
But if you've been through a bunch of shit already, like you both sound like, and then you're ready, that makes a more mature relationship too. When people have been through a bunch of shit and they acted like whatever in the past, and they're like, I don't want no more of that. That's like I've had enough
Yeah.
of that suffering. Let's enter this wide open and
Yeah.
aware and forgiving and understanding and
Yeah.
the
Like,
understanding that we're going to still do it wrong because we are conditioned. But we can
yeah.
also see that and let go of it and forgive each other in the moment, in presence. And then the resentment doesn't build in the future. It all stays in the presence. And any kind of resentment that might start to build or any kind of anger or defensiveness can be burned away, just like an emotion by yourself in the moment between two algorithms.
Yeah.
Then you get a good spinning algorithm going that can be a really hot, awesome loop, loving loop of presence that you stay with.
Mm.
And you got a great relationship.
Okay. Sweet.
And then the relationship is
Uh,
just like an algorithm, right? Relationship isn't solid. If you don't work on a relationship on a daily basis, the algorithm can change in an unconscious way, just like your own life does. But if it's in
right.
presence and you both say, I'm going to do that, then you can keep rebuilding the algorithm just like you rebuild yourself every single day by thinking the same things or whatever.
Mm.
You keep those same ideas in the relationship. I want to forgive. I want to keep it in presence. I want to be loving. I want to do whatever it is. And you both have those same thoughts reappearing, then your algorithm is going to reappear in the same way. And that's how you have a basis of a good relationship every day forever. But it's not because it's solidified. It's because you keep
Re
asking for the same thing.
Hmm.
So yourself
Okay.
keeps rebuilding the same way every day. Yeah. Sounds really good
Awesome.
to me. All the stuff you've told me sounds great.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
Does it feel great to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Don't matter. I
Other
think it
other
feels
than
great.
other than like old doubt loops, just of yeah,
But
not
you dissolve them. You dissolve them and work with them right now. Both of you do. And if
yeah.
you have two people who can help the other with their doubt loops, you got double the presence to work on the conditioning. If it's agreed
Mm.
upon, that's like special. So if you got
Nice.
that, maybe look into
Keep
it.
rolling. Yeah.
Look into it and see
Cool.
where it goes.
Yeah. 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 Thanks, Tony.
Yeah,
That's very helpful. Mhm.
cool.
Yeah, that's about all I got for today.
All
So
right,
thanks.
cool. Uh, Sean, I think.
Hello.
What's up?
All right. I think I'm at a point where some expectations or doubts or something in that category are starting to either trip me up or make it harder to commit to looking at certain things. Um, so hoping that you might be able to just kind of crush or cut through those in some sort of decisive way, or point out which parts of it are valid or are not valid so that I don't keep going in doubt loops, I guess.
You're
Uh,
gonna crush it with your scene, not me.
right, right. And yeah, feel free to be very direct. I might need to take a couple attempts to put it into words just because, so I might borrow your words or other words. I don't know how to describe things without it sounding very conceptual, but what I'm describing is very experiential, but you can check in if it sounds otherwise.
Okay.
So basically, like even right now, more and more uh, can kind of just look at what's happening directly. So noticing sight, sound, sensations. Sensations is a big one, um, whether it's for the body or whether it's kind of a general sense of what seems to be giving thoughts importance. And the more that happens in more situations, the more whatever's happening doesn't feel personal.
Hmm.
But
The way you've been looking at stuff and putting it in the group, as you keep going, it should start to feel more and more impersonal. So it sounds good.
okay. So yeah, let me try to think about how to phrase where I feel stuck or hesitant. It's there's a recurring theme. I think I wrote about this once of expecting that things should change when they're seen clearly. And then this has happened enough times that I should just have dropped that expectation, but it hasn't happened, of seeing that nothing about the experience itself changes. It's just there's no longer a an identification through needing it to be a certain way because it's not me. So to try to give a more concrete example, anxiety is a thing that's come up a lot with work. And there's always this really strong hope of, oh, the anxiety will dissipate or I won't be anxious anymore. But then if it's seen in a very literal sense, so just like, oh, okay, what's happening here? Here being, this, I don't know exactly where to point, but then it's not me and it's not personal and it's fine, but it still feels like what I would normally label as anxiety. And so in that sense, it's very disappointing to the mind or this expectation that it should be different, but also it's completely different because it's not sticky or it's not personal. It's just what's
It feels like
happening.
maybe there's a mild thing there that's happening where you're trying to solve it by making it appear more impersonal to avoid the feeling of the anxiety sensations. Maybe.
Maybe give me a second. I think that's
I know if
pointing.
you're at work and you're working and feeling anxiety comes up and people are all around you, that you may not be able to do that at work all the time. But there's sort of like maybe a part of you that doesn't want the anxiety feelings. So you might be pushing it away a little to make it impersonal so you don't have to feel it or to control it at least to box it into a certain place, maybe.
So some of that does happen, and sometimes that is seen, they're like pushing it away. It's like, that's also a grasping or like inverse grasping, right? That's not just allowing.
You probably have some very subtle thought there saying that shouldn't be happening now at work or no, something subtle, some kind of no or some kind of um, this isn't cool or not right now or this
Yeah,
is
yeah, okay.
affecting my ability to do work or who knows? I don't
I
know.
think everything you're saying does happen. The question I have feels deeper than that, which is um, I see a way in which, again, lack of good words, I could completely let go into this,
Hmm.
right? So it like even those thoughts, everything you were just describing, even that could just be, but even there's some like resistance to doing that. And I guess I'm trying to figure out where that's coming from. Like why?
Control.
Hmm.
It's old control because you have a logical mind like I do, and you really want to solve stuff. So there's a subtle you don't want to feel helpless there. Like
Hmm.
there's a control, there's a um
Yeah.
I
Okay.
could
But
let
so,
go of
so
all this stuff, but then what will happen? You probably have some version of
yes.
that coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. And even as we're speaking, it's because what's weird is from the perspective of letting go into this, there's no problem. And it maybe sounds conceptual when I say that. I don't mean that as a conclusion. I mean that as just like directly observationally true. And
There
so,
also is no letting go into this. Letting go into this
mm,
is Sean letting go, as opposed to just seeing it for what it is, and then it releases. If you say, I'm
mm,
letting go into this, I'm trying, that is also a subtle version of control.
mhm, mm,
Then
yeah,
you're not seeing anymore, you're grasping. You're trying to manipulate it in a way. Now,
yeah,
I'm
okay,
talking very subtly. I'm talking about when you're looking really deep. I'm
yep,
not talking about surface level stuff
yeah,
here
yeah,
because you said it feels deeper than that. So
yes,
I'm talking about there's some contraction there that's if I let go of the plate spinning, it's all going to crash.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
And even that sense of it's all going to crash
the way you're saying letting
is just
go, there's when people talk, sometimes you can tell by the way they say the thing is what their
yes,
internal thing is happening. So when you say I'm I'm thinking I can let go, or whatever the words you said. To me, that gives me an idea that inside your mind, coming from your perspective, there is a part of Sean that needs to let go, that needs to make himself let go,
Mm,
as opposed to just ungrasping and seeing what the processes are, and then by seeing that,
okay.
it ungrasps itself.
Yeah, it feels like right now that the part right of here that feels like it needs to let go is actually coming from a sense of, but there should be more than this. Meaning when it
That's a thought.
lets go of
There's
itself.
you right there at that
Okay.
urge, right there at
Yeah.
that urge you just mentioned is the selfing mechanism itself. Look at that
Yeah.
directly instead of the things that need to be let go.
Yes.
Look
Okay.
at the
Okay.
urge that's there to try to let go. You just said it right there. So that's you're looking right at that. But you're taking your attention instead of taking it directly on the urge, there's part of your attention that's being put back into the objectiveness of things, of trying to let go of something, as
Mm,
opposed to seeing the mechanism that is trying to grab.
okay.
So look directly at that. We talked about that a couple weeks ago when I said I made those recordings and one of them got messed up. And then but what I said, this is the same thing. It's
Okay.
the
Okay.
same thing.
Let me take just like 30 seconds. I'm just
Sure.
going to almost speak it out loud to try to trace that mechanism because that sounds very accurate, right? So there's a sense of wanting to let go or just like uh, an act of doing that should happen. It's not, I don't think coming from, in this case, a need to control. That's a big one for me in general, but it's more coming, well, I guess it is kind of, but it's it's thinking that something more should happen than just what happens when uh
What
I'll
do you
say it
think?
lets go of itself. That's not, those are bad words, but
What do
and
you
it
think should happen? What is thought that should happen right there?
okay, what should happen
That's where the
is
belief is.
yes, yes.
What do you think should happen when that's happening?
What should happen is oh it's slippery. Give me like 20 seconds here.
Oh, rush.
Yeah, there should be some sort of a positive confirmation that letting go has happened, or but that would require a thought or something else to be the thing.
What confirmation should there be? What should that confirmation look like to
Hmm.
Sean?
Yeah, yeah, because it's trying to compare it to all the times when things do feel clear, like, oh, there's no, like, this isn't real, not in a literal sense, just, phenomenologically. Um,
What does it
yes.
feel like when it doesn't feel real and it feels good? What does that feel like? What's happening in your experience when that happens, when you notice it?
Let me try to actually report from observation rather than memory. Hang on.
Would it be an ungrasping?
Yeah, but I want to put it a few more into my own words because ungrasping is just thrown around a lot. Not in like it's bad, but it's not
No, I
specific.
got you. Got you.
Um, so yeah, what actually is happening is there's not really a sense of controlling anything. There's a sense of seeing everything, but without it needing to be one way or another or different from how it is, including thoughts or senses of it needing to change. It's just kind of this like there's not exactly literally accurate, but it's almost like keep releasing back. Not back spatially, but I don't know what back means, but just detaching from this, from like the being, it
Seeing.
feels like the stakes have dropped. Like there's no longer any skin in the game. Like there's no, it doesn't matter what happens. I don't know. That's
I think when you say there's no skin in the game, I think that's ungrasping because that is when you're seeing in that moment
Mm.
You're seeing the conditioning for what it is, so it appears more impersonal. When the urge
Yeah.
has you, then you're Sean,
Yeah.
something, controlling something.
Right. Yeah. It feels very much otherwise like I'm not trying. It's just like, right. It's just happening. But that's the comparison point
Mhm.
that this expectation latches onto. It's like, right now it doesn't feel like that. Therefore, I or something needs to let go.
I think it's just a thought. There's a should thought there in those moments that
Okay.
something should let go
Yeah.
or something should happen. Okay, I've felt this ungrasping before. It felt impersonal. Something should happen where it makes it ungrasping again. That's the urge right there.
Yeah.
The thought, the grab to control.
And
Because you
it's
felt the
fueled.
difference, you felt the
Mhm,
flow, you felt the ungrasping. Now
mhm.
there's grasping. You're, why the fuck am I grasping? I
Yeah.
need to do something about this grasping.
Yeah.
That makes the grasping,
Right. Which is very ironic, but
grasp me harder, baby. That's what it does. It like grabs, and then that's the but see, there's still nothing to do. When that grasping starts happening, there's nothing to do. Any movement of do is Sean,
yeah.
is the urge trying to make something be a different way than it is.
Yes.
Accepting it fully the way it is in that moment will make the more impersonal nature of the conditioning come up. So you just have to look really closely. Like the next time it doesn't feel like grasping and you feel really clear, really look closely at that moment.
Yeah.
Not like you're trying to figure it out though. Just
No, just like
relaxingly, passively,
observation, just like
just
asking.
really look at why is it like this? Or
Yes.
this feels good. What's happening? And then
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
next time you also have the other thing, really look closely at what thought might be creeping in or what like it'll be some sort of control thought, some subtle thought there, or some
Yes.
belief will come up about yourself. And of course, belief is made up of a packet of thoughts or one solid thought that feels so real that it is a belief. You know,
Yeah. No, this
not sure
is
what that is for you, but it is some version of control
all it should be a certain, yeah.
or fear of helplessness. It could be an opposite thought of control. It could be, if I don't solve this, everything falls apart, or whatever it is. It could be
Yeah. I know.
something
I
like
mean, it
that.
can be more. I've seen flavors of all of those.
Yeah.
But they all are fueled by the assumed assumed reality or premise that there is something that needs to be different. And I think that's what's behind this is like that's what gives validity to this sense of I need to control or I need to whatever is because but because things need to be different from how this is. And I think what you just said of during times when it's clear, really honestly seeing why. And I've tried to do a little bit of this. I'm still playing around with it. Maybe I'll have more to report in a week or two. This will be like kind of the wrap up of this. But it seems to be again, yeah, just nothing actually changes about the raw data of experience.
Yeah.
But what gets encoded to memory is that it felt different. But it's not actually that anything was different, it's that I wasn't grasping. And then if I'm comparing to that later, I forget that or I tried the memory is misleading, basically. That's
Well,
yeah.
that's what's okay. That's what the identification is. It feels like a solidity. But if Sean is a thought, and then, in my best moments or my clearest moments, there's no center here whatsoever.
Right.
I don't know how it is for Almar or Josh or Angelo. They may not do this at all, but for me, what I do is there'll be complete centerlessness. Like there's nothing referring here. I mean, think about it, if there's no center experience here, none. And I am literally the environment and everything appears in it and the centerlessness is gone and there's no the non-dual for me is here all the time, but for Anata, for me, the grasping right here, the hook, the little fish hook that wants to remain here and now, that's a tiny grasping. So if that
Yeah.
tiny grasping is there, then in thought in the world, there will be some grasping too. But when I'm centerless, which happens to me. I kind of flux in and out of that at different moments.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
someone like Alma or Angelo, especially Angelo, maybe he's fucking centerless all the time. I've talked to this about him to him about this before. We've had like me and you were having, we had a really deep discussion about this, and it was awesome, but it was also like it's so insanely hard to talk about it because
Yeah.
it's a movement that's happening, and he's like, I can't really say what I am. He says something like paraphrasing, I can't really tell you what I am because I don't even see it that way anymore.
Hmm.
And it
Hmm.
was like a whole thing, but complicating. But what I'm saying is, for you, what I'm saying is the identification when there's something here and now, whatever version of solidity that is. If somebody fully believes, let's say they're Sean, completely mind identified with Sean, then everything is out to get him or everything needs to be controlled.
Yep.
Then when you have the presence of the first awakening, you see, oh, I'm not presence. And then there's a flipping. And then time and space is the non-dual part of it. When that collapses, then things here feel here. Then Anata is the fish hooking for me personally. I'll just say people may describe it differently, but for it's like the fish hooking of remaining in a here and now. And for me, that disappears a lot, and then sometimes it reappears. And I've noticed in my own belief work and my own thing that when I that fish hooking here and now is still here, there can be grasping onto things. But when I feel
Mm.
centerless, there's absolutely zero suffering because there's no one here to suffer. It's completely centerless. You cannot suffer if you are the environment. Everything that happens
Yeah.
is you. So where's the suffering? Even death. So I've noticed that, and I'm wondering in my own work, like I tell y'all in my own work, I wonder do someday it just stays centerless, and that's the end of the line as far as
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying for you is that urge. There is a grabbing here. That urge for here now. Then that means there's a Sean identification that wants to do something. And when you're not grasping, when you feel flowy, then there's not that you're centerless or anything yet, but there is a part of you that's letting go more as the field there. So when you have to look in your direct experience and see those urges grabbing in whatever way they're grabbing with a thought and the identification that's glued to that thought, in whatever way it shows up.
Yeah. Part of what's also confusing. Sorry, I was going to be done, but you just made me think of one more thing. Um,
Oh, we're fine. We got plenty of time.
is and this is where, right, for each person it's totally different. I might be atypical in that I the overwhelming majority of, I think I've mentioned this before, of my meditation and focus was very concretely perceptual. And so a lot of that has dropped away way before thoughts. And so I cannot know if what you're describing is the same thing that I experienced the light version of, but essentially that centerlessness, but not in an identity sense, in a very literal sense. So I'm just talking about subjective perception, no metaphysical claims, but just it's not uncommon and has been for a while now where I can look with attention here and it's there isn't anything here, right? Like this is just happening. And I think, but this is part of the doubt or the expectations is then what happens like, wait, but then why am I still getting so sucked into thoughts and into the thought stream? It's kind of like actually one of two things will happen. Either it's just very ordinarily clear, like no fireworks, just like, oh yeah, there's just nothing here. So why do I keep getting sucked into attention? Or so it's when either that happens, or there's a looking like, oh, there's nothing here, so I could just let go. I'm saying let go. That's sloppy wording. It's more of just there's no need to be grasping, right? So if I see there's nothing here, it can result in there's no need to be grasping. But then very quickly there's a sound like, no, 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 that's dangerous. And so
So
either,
this is broadly what's happening with you, and then we can go deeper. So if you have a very solidified version of Sean, right, that's
yep,
here in experience, and it's like I'm a separate person in the world, and I am navigating this world, and it's outside of me, and every blah 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 blah.
yep,
So the seeking mechanism you have is relaxing, but
mm,
it's not totally ungrasping. But it
hmm,
is relaxing the grip. I can see
hmm,
it by the way you talk. you have to be okay with that process of that relaxing taking a while because there's a
Mm,
minor part of your seeking mechanism that's saying my fist is unclenching, but it's like right here, and that's not good enough. What do I
yeah.
need to do to make it do this? But doing
Yes.
that makes it
Yes.
go like this again.
Yes. Yes. This is yeah.
That's why it's just seeing. Because if you just see, oh, I'm starting to grasp, oh, now there's a relaxation. So any attempt by the seeker part of you to go, this is taking too long. What the fuck's going on? And then it's like, you know. But if you see it, it relaxes more and more.
Yeah.
Centerless experience would be when I say hands off.
Mm.
How can you have hands if you're fucking centerless? That's the metaphorically, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you're centerless, how can you grab anything? But there's gradations to that. That's what realization is.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
But people who are seeking, they're trying to jump ahead and go, I want realization now. I want full
Hmm.
fucking enlightenment. I want blah 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 blah. And they make all these claims about what they think it is. And when it's not happening for them, they're doubting. Now they're going back to clinching because they're doubting. If you just relax in the space that you are,
Yeah.
then that clinching starts to release.
Yeah.
If you try to control that fucker, clinch.
Yep.
These clinch, clinch, release, open, close. It's that over and over again. And when you start to feel really flowy and good, you've opened a whole fucking lot. Then something happens, you're like, fuck, and you're like, again. And the
Yeah.
amount what you're doing now is a very subtle version of that because you have released and seen so much. Now you just have to let that be what it is and stop trying to jump to the end of the centerlessness.
Yeah. That's
And
exactly.
ironically, the more you do that, the more you allow that to relax, the more centerless you become.
Yeah.
That's the path. But the path is all right here in the moment,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
happening in what you already are.
Yeah.
So there's no
You just
fucking where
called
to
it out.
get. There's nothing to grab. The grabbing is simply conditioning in whatever form it takes, whatever belief the patchwork of your algorithm is. That's the grasping. That's the clinching.
Yep. Okay.
So you don't even worry about. I urge everyone to watch Alma's retreat talk that she did, where she on her channel, where she has. I posted in the group a while back, and I think Lisa did too again. But there's a part in that retreat talk, and I posted just that part of the talk in the group too, just the part I'm talking about. It's hard to do because the mind wants to clench and grab and say, I want this to happen now, like you said. But honest to God, the more you can remain in the alignment of presence right now and just look at what's clenching,
Hmm.
those insights come by themselves. Forget about the fucking insights. Forget about reality. Forget about
Hmm.
realization and enlightenment. Forget all that. It's just words, just ideas.
Yeah.
In immediacy, looking at this stuff like you're looking, just notice the clenching and let it unclench and stay right there as it unclenches. And then one day, there may be a insight that's big or small or medium or whatever. And you're like, oh, and just let it keep doing its thing. There's
Yeah.
nothing, the whole path is trying to make insight happen. And if it's
Yep.
not happening, then there's doubt thoughts and it's got you. It's got
Yeah.
you in clinch.
Yeah. That's very clear.
And
Thank you.
none of that is in a line. There's none of that in a straight line, right?
No, no, it's all, yeah.
No, it's all right here. You're either clinching or not clinching, but it's happening in presence all the time. That's always here. And enlightenment is seeing, oh, it's always here. I don't have to go fucking get presence. I don't have to go get it. It is what I am. I'm just doing various versions of clinching and conditioning. And so for me, the web of beliefs that we have in the world is the clinching. That's the algorithm. And that's why I call it that. Because that's
Hmm.
just the way I see it. Other people might not agree. I don't give a shit because I got my suffering reduced by doing it this way. So I don't care what the masters say. This is what it's alive and breathing in me, which I think they would agree with. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But it's the same for you. And that's why
Yeah.
it's the same. That's why Angelo calls this shit simply always awake because it is
Oh,
always
yeah.
awake. It's always awake and always has been. Every single person in here is already awake, is already that stuff. What mode of clinching, conditioning has crunched you down to not believe that? Deconstruct those beliefs. You're simply always awake.
I've somehow never actually thought about the name of his
Yeah.
thing. That's really fun.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, but what I'm saying to you is you're working on this stuff. Just realize, am I clinching? There's nowhere to
Hmm.
get. There's nothing to
Right.
see that's going to make me jump to the end and release. It's like you're just doing it now.
Yep.
And it's very subtle.
Yeah.
So just watch for that part of it, you know?
Hmm. Cool.
Watch this back because I don't even know what the hell I said. But there's something good in there that you can take when you're looking at those exact moments.
Yeah.
Maybe record this conversation part with your phone, and then when you're working with that stuff, re-listen to this part of our conversation and then look.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is what fucking belief work is, people. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is how you uncover your bullshit. It's just like this.
Hmm.
This is belief work. This is what I talk about in the group. This is what I talk about in my videos. There's no specialness to this. You already special. You're already awake. You're already this fucking thing. Look at the conditioning. Look at the algorithm that's holding you back. It's not even holding you back. I mean, it is as a person, but
Holding you hostage. I don't know. It's
yeah, but this grasping doesn't mean that Sean gets everything he wants.
no. Yeah. Right. Right.
The
But
body mind Sean will die. Will get sick and die someday, or it'll get
mhm.
hit by a truck really fast, or whatever. But what I'm saying is, as becoming the seeing from the other way, you can let that be what it is. And you're in full acceptance of that. And then you're in full acceptance of the joy and the other hard shit and whatever happens. And then there's just gratitude because you get to experience both. It may not be
Yeah.
gratitude 100% of the time. I don't have gratitude 100% of the time, but you know, yeah, that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about all the belief stuff. What we just did back and forth,
Hmm.
doing that with your mind. That's why I always use you as an example in the group. When I started this group, this is what I wanted it to be. This is what I know is powerful and works. And that's why I was trying to get people to participate because it doesn't require people to be in that group constantly reading all the stuff that I put in there or the stuff that I write or the stuff I share. It is you're dipping in there, you're asking some direct questions because you're doing the work on yourself in the moment. You're asking me some questions and I'm helping you, and then you
Hmm.
go away or you put something else in there or whatever you do, and then we meet back here, we go over it, you go back to this, uncover.
Hmm.
This is what I want everybody to do. This is what I wish everybody would do. And that's why it's a little like been frustrating for me when people who don't participate at all, because I'm like, dude, if you participated like this and step into that uncomfortableness, you will uncover all kinds of stuff. That's what I want people to do for themselves, not for me. So you're a fucking shining example of what I'm
For what it's
talking
worth,
about working with this stuff.
I'll just throw in my experience. It's never cl clear to me that doing this is going to help beforehand. It often feels like, there's no point at, and then every time you point something out, I'm like, oh, okay, that happens. So I don't know if it's relevant to other people, but it's not like I come in confidently knowing like, okay, this is what I'm going to say and we'll figure it out that it'll work. It's just like somehow, I guess just from me speaking, you're able to
It's
cut.
not even me and you. It's our conditions arising together, solving something or talking, hashing out something, and then they're seeing. And then there's people in the Zoom right now who are listening to our conversations and they're seeing things about it. It's seeing. You're just seeing.
Hmm.
And then that's changing things. Your algorithm gets changed that way. And that's what I want for everybody. So when I point out stuff, but if people don't participate and they don't tell me their beliefs and they're not working, I can't do, what can I do? I can only share cool shit that I think is written really well and hope that that might trigger something or a recording or whatever. But the shared co-creation, the shared co-looking is where the power comes from. And it's not me or you, it's both. It's all. It's all of it together. Yeah. So every time I talk about this, I use you as an example of how I designed in my head, hoping the group would go. It's why I
I'm
made
fumbling
Telegram.
through it,
The Zooms
but
are fine. I like the Zooms, obviously, they're great. The Telegram, the point of starting the Telegram, which is what other teachers don't do, is to make the slow rolling retreat where people can come and say during the
Mhm.
week, this is what's hard for me. This is my beliefs. I'm working with this. And I could go, well, look at that. Look at that. Like I do with you.
Mhm.
We don't spend tons of time. You post an error every 2 or 3 days. You say this. Sometimes it's only even once a week, but you say what you say, and they're long paragraphs. But you're saying what, but that's fine because you're posting when you mean to post. You're saying what's important, and then I go based on what I'm seeing. I'm just
Mhm.
going, look at this. I think, what about this? What about this? But you
Mhm.
give me the information to look and see. And it's uncomfortable and it could be embarrassing for you for some of the things you post, maybe. But so what? You don't
Mhm.
solve shit by just sitting in the stands and not doing it. You do it and you be uncomfortable and you do it anyway. And it becomes not so uncomfortable. And then you're not making progress to some imagined wonderful place of enlightenment. You're making the progress in now, that what you already
Mhm.
are. And you're just simply changing the algorithm to reflect differently. And that leads to ungrasping, which leads to a better life. Even if the life doesn't get better circumstantially, it gets better.
Mhm.
It's like when the people get the cancer diagnosis and they know they're going to die in 3 months and they ungrasp and they go, well, I can't do anything. They realize they have no control and there's ungrasping and they feel good, even though they're going to die. There's a lot of people like that. You know, being in the hospitals and stuff and seeing that, I've seen people do that. I've had people tell me that. But it doesn't mean you get what you want all the time.
Mhm.
That's what I think some people with enlightenment, they think if I get enlightenment and transcends this body, I can get whatever I want anytime. That's a whole different thing. That's like manifestation. And, some of that I think is true in certain ways. And some of it's overblown and egoic as hell. And it just, it's more about blending with the currents of life instead of trying to control the currents. And then when you're blending with the currents, maybe you can dip a little and send them a certain way by leaning into a certain version of clear seeing. I'm not an expert on that. I'm working with that myself and I don't know, but I know this part.
Mhm.
So it's awesome.
Thank you.
So just keep doing that, man. Okay, Ryan.
Hi, Tony.
Hey.
Uh, so I came into the Zoom and um, I just immediately noticed like this relaxation, like this, um, I don't know, it's like this, I've been holding this contraction for who knows how long. And it's just like, I'm in this group. I can finally relax. And I've just been feeling like this kind of low level emotion, just like the whole last, I don't know, hour plus that I've been in here. And it's just like a really stark contrast from how I've been feeling in the rest of my life. And I guess I just wanted to bring that up because I've been working through some beliefs kind of stuff. I forget, I think it was in one of your videos, you're talking about beliefs and working through those. And I was like, I'm just gonna sit down. So a couple nights ago, I sat down, I was just writing all kinds of just like whatever beliefs or just whatever like situation. Okay, what's the belief under this? What are the repeating patterns in my life? And there were a couple that came up. But the one I started investigating was around my kids. Like I just like can't keep it together with my kids so often. Like it's a daily basis kind of thing where I just kind of lose my cool. And um
You got three
I,
daughters, right?
I have three daughters, yeah. So one just turned 7, and then 4, and then 9 months. So it's a pretty busy household, and the 7-year-old and 4-year-old are fighting all the time. They just go at each other and drives me nuts. And um, so it's just like that's a pattern I was looking at, like what's going on underneath this. I was doing Byron Katie's work with that, with just like one of the situations that came up was like my kids, my kids should listen to me when I tell them to put on their pajamas. That's just
Yeah.
like one thing, and so I was working through that, and then um, it's funny, like as I was just sitting at the coffee table writing this stuff out, and my wife is talking to me, and like one of our old arguments came up in the middle of this, so I'm just like all of this stuff is coming up, um, and it's just like I feel like I just don't have any space to breathe in my life. This morning I sat down and I took like 5 minutes to just like, okay, I'm just gonna sit and come back to presence. And um my 4-year-old came and sat with me like after like 3 minutes, which was funny. It's just like, okay, this is my life. This is reality. This is what's happening right now. But it's um just feeling like, man, like I feel kind of trapped by the situations of my life, of my kids and my relationship and just all this shit that's going on. And there's just like hardly any space to, like, I don't know, I just feel like I'm failing over and over again to um I don't know. I don't know what. And here's this emotion that's coming up of, I don't know, just this sadness. And I don't know, I just wish I could be like how I feel in this group. Um just like uh just that, like, that relaxation. But I just feel like I have to control all the time. Like my kids are fighting and I'm like,
What do you
quit
think
that.
what do you think it is about coming into the group that makes you feel that way?
It's just like, I know I can be honest. Like I know I can be real and say what's going on.
Mm.
There's like-minded people, and um it's like I can look at that stuff, and um
Are
it's
you
like with
able
my,
are you able to do that with your wife too?
no, no, I don't have that kind of, like, um that kind of honesty doesn't feel safe a lot of the times, sometimes, but a lot of the times it doesn't feel safe. um she's not really like in this path or interested in this kind of stuff. Um and sometimes, like, I'm just like, fuck it, like I'm just gonna be honest. But a lot of times it just doesn't feel safe.
Mm.
So
Well, what you said at the beginning when you said I sit for 5 minutes and I try to get back to presence, it was like I was talking to Sean about. See, that small view that you have is there's a belief there that I have to get back to a presence that's not here all the time. So if you're sitting down like for 5 minutes like you had, noticing, trying as a practice to notice, that's the ocean aliveness, right? Trying that practice to notice that it's not that presence is not there all the time. It's that's just that the attention is taking away to a certain contracted thought loop. And when you sit to notice the shift, that perspective to, oh, that presence is here before I have the thought loop, during it, and after, because it's what I am. And then if you're able to settle in that, when your daughter comes up to you and you're able to try to maintain that as a practice, you can notice that your daughter also appears in that presence, and she is that presence. So there's no part of your life that's not this. It is your life appearing, that appearing as that in your life. And that can be an important perspective change to look at. Just one small thing, but based on what you said.
yeah, yeah. So, like, I'll go to this morning, like, honestly, like my daughter coming to me, like when I'm sitting, like it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
But then I go and I'm making breakfast, and um the kids like found like a pool floaty in the garage, like one of those like rings. And one kid thinks it belongs to them, but the other kid has it. And I'm, you know, making bacon to put in the oven, and they just start like yelling at each other about it. And I'm just like, it's just like the reaction is so quick to just be like, I don't know, just to step in and like control the situation or stop what's going on. It's those moments that are really tough, where like it's just like I don't even have a chance. It's like I don't have a snowball's chance in hell of remaining like uh of
Remaining
seeing
like
what's
present.
going, yeah, remaining present and like seeing what's going on in that moment. And it's like that's, and then I just like go off. like go down that trail, and then it's hard. Like I just get stuck in that mode, you know.
Well, one thing I'll say to you is you have three young girls, three young kids. I don't mean just because they're girls. I mean three young kids. That's like that's like super hard. That's a lot at once, and they're not spread out in ages that much either. You know what I mean? You got that's a lot going on. So in some ways, I want you to have compassion for yourself and for your wife for the hard stuff of dealing with that and whatever work you do as well. And it's like that's hard. That's a lot of stuff. And you know, as a father and as like a you have like a deep voice and as like a father, I mean, in some ways of the role that you're in, you are that person. You are that disciplinarian that's not supposed to let there be chaos. You know what I mean? You are the general of your house in a way that's supposed to. So in some ways that function is correct. But I mean, obviously if you're flying off the handle and, yelling at them at the top of your lungs or obviously then there's things to work on there, but also you gotta, to have some compassion for yourself and your wife because that's a lot. Three kids is a lot. Three young kids is a whole lot.
Yeah,
But, as time progresses, they'll get older and some of those behaviors that drive you crazy will shift and change into things that may be more manageable and you know what I mean? They'll be different. I think one of the real big things you could do is to I mean, I don't know what your relationship is like with your wife, but to really work with her in whatever way you can on getting on the same page with some stuff. Do you feel like, I mean, I don't want to get personal, but you're asking me about this. Just like, do you feel like y'all support each other? Do you have a good relationship? Do you feel like, I know she's not interested in this stuff, but how is that part of your thing?
yeah. There's definitely like a distance. Like currently, we've been in this. Um, I don't know what you call it. Like there's been like an unspoken issue between us for a couple of days,
Mhm.
and um, that kind of stuff will sit and fester. And I think you even said something about that when you're talking to Jack about like when you're
Oh,
in a
yeah.
relationship and then you go into your thoughts and like I was like, oh yeah, I see that, and there's like resentment build up. Um, so we have that kind of stuff. Our relationship is um, yeah, kind of mixed, a mixed bag. Um, Sometimes we're really supportive, and like there was a moment last night in parenting where we like really had each other's backs, and that was really cool. And then we've had this 2 day old festering argument that's just like we can't talk about it, or like I can't talk about it, and bringing it up just feels really difficult. And so yeah, you go to bed with that for 2 nights, and that's not fun.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, kind of a mixed bag.
When y'all were really supportive you said last night?
Yeah.
Y'all were really supportive and things were working really well. What do you think that was working really well? Based on what
Um,
based on what I had the conversation with Jack, what do you think that was working really well there?
um, it was really just like a moment when my 4-year-old was spiraling
Mhm.
about something, and she was like, uh, she it was about flossing her teeth. She didn't want to floss her teeth, and um, and she was like, I was trying to help her learn to do that herself, and she
Mhm.
was like, kind of as an out, she was like, oh, I want mommy to do it, and she said that a few times, and my wife is in the kitchen, and I was like, oh, hey, uh, hey, mom, are you going to do that for her? She was like, no, I'm not going to do that. It was just like one of those things where like I'm in the middle of this with my kid, and she backs me up in that situation. Like we're learning some personal responsibility and that we can do hard things.
Right. But,
So
but 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 what do you think was working right there in that moment that made it feel good and supportive
it was like there was space for the situation to happen as it was happening. Like
presence?
yeah,
Presence. So, in my opinion, whatever with your wife that's becoming the problem or that's becoming the resentments or whatever, you and her need to get on the same page in whatever way that creates that presence like you had last night. It's the same way when you talked about the birthday party, and I think you said she was sick or something like that, and you had to do a lot of this yourself. And then when I told you in the group, and then you said that it brought tears and that the party went well and that you did this, what that was partially at least, was you recognizing, first of all, it was the perspective shift I gave you, but also it brought you back into presence and not your thoughts about the party. And then the party went a lot more well. So the hardness of the children and the situation with them, if the co-balance of the relationship you have with your wife is not in presence and there's thoughts going away and there's resentments, that makes all the children stuff so much harder. And then last night, what it felt really good was because y'all were in presence on the same page and there wasn't so in whatever way you can try to make that work, make that better. And the way that I find that it works for me when I do it correctly is authenticity. Because another person, especially if they love you, they can feel your authenticity when you're authentically wanting to relate to them, as opposed to coming from a defensive position or an angry position or resentful position. If you're authentically hurting or you're authentically wanting to make something better, if someone loves you, they can feel that. And if they got any sense in their head, they're going to want to do it themselves. And then maybe she can be authentic to you first. Maybe you extend the authenticity first and see where it goes. And then, have a conversation like that with her about authenticity and how you want to come from that. You can even reference the group and saying, this is really helping me. Maybe you could show her Jack's portion of the recording. Even if she's not interested in this stuff, say, would you watch this with me? Because I think it's important for our relationship. The conversation I had with Jack. Just see what she says. She can think the rest of it's bullshit, but what I told Jack is very relatable and grounded and not bullshit. So if she thinks that's bullshit, well, then there's something going on there that obviously I don't know your wife at all. I don't know anything about your relationship. I'm just trying to talk in a ballpark way about relating. But if you can get there with authenticity and you can start that with her and y'all can get on the same page in whatever form that takes, the stuff with your children will be way easier to deal with because it sounds like you're battling that and you're battling her or in some way. I'm just doing the best I can with what I know, but you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. And that feels good because it's
Coming at her in authenticity and presence and saying that's important to you and that's what you want.
yeah.
When, like I told Jack, if she gets defensive or something or resentful about something, if you can understand where her conditioning is coming from, she's probably stressed about the kids or whatever with her parents or her life or job. I don't know anything. But if there's understanding there and communication and authenticity, that trifecta is very powerful for generating the presence or
Yeah.
recognizing the presence. So in whatever way, whether that's couples counseling or whatever it is, I don't know what it is, but or just good conversations or agreeing to every night after you put the kids to bed to have a conversation every night about things that you need, things she needs, what just authenticity is I don't know this.
Yeah.
I can't give you more details than that right now, but
No, that makes perfect sense. And that's like it's not outside of me. Like it's not like I'm trying to solve a problem or trying to like fix, this resentment or whatever that's going on. Like that's on me. Like that's my responsibility. And I like that.
I'd say
Like,
don't even come at her from trying to solve this problem. Just be
yeah, that's fine.
authentic about what you're feeling and then ask her
Yeah.
authentically what she feels.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just rebuild like I was talking about Sean, like the algorithm. Y'all built an algorithm together, your own algorithms, and then you've come together with an algorithm that is swirling together and you're rebuilding it daily. And it could be resentments or it could be stress or it could be, so you got to do something in the middle of that with attention and presence to divert that algorithm into a different direction. And that's how you do it with authenticity. If you come in and saying, "We got a problem. You got a problem. We need to talk about it." That ain't gonna work. She's not gonna like that, and you wouldn't like it either. If she does that to you. But if you're authentically if you're coming from a very authentic place about what you're stressed about, what you feel, whatever that problem is you haven't talked about for a few days, if you come from that authentically in a loving place, if she recognizes that authenticity and she loves you, then I'm sure she's going to want to. There'll be some sort of melting, some sort of softening of that place. And if she doesn't, and she's just hardcore, you know, you've done what you can do, and I'm not a relationship expert or nothing. I'm not Oprah, so and she's not either, and Oprah's not an expert, but you know what I'm saying? That's where it starts, and where it unfolds from there. Come back here and we can talk about it more. Um, but from insight work and belief work, that's what I see, and that's what I would say.
Thank you. That helps a lot.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, try that out, and
Okay.
whatever form you can do it, and then let me know.
All right. Thanks,
And
Tony.
if it feels too personal for the group, then just message me privately on Telegram if you want.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. All right. We're over a tiny bit. That's all right. I don't care. I did record this one, which I'm glad I did. So uh, I will post it not too long. And cool. I'll do another one on Wednesday or Thursday night this week for an hour like we did last time. So uh, there's 11 people here. So I'll post a thing about next week for Wednesday or Thursday, and then whoever can just click on whichever one you'd rather do. If you want to do both, click on both, and then I'll pick whichever one has the most or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm good with all of them.
Okay. Oh, y'all, that was a good one, I think.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
everyone.
Tony.
Thanks, everyone.